Hello. This might be a treat for some of you, seeing as it's the countdown. It's just a matter of days until Backstreet Boys releases their next album, their ninth studio album. And so, in celebration of that, I guess, I decided to make sort of a video of my history with Backstreet Boys. So this might be a treat for some of you. This video, I reckon, will be pretty long. But these are just my stories and my history with my favorite group. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this not edited. It might be tough, but I'm gonna try to go on the fly here. So I'm gonna take you back to the late '90s when I was a little boy. So my brother and I, Dan the Man Bardot, you guys probably know him already. I think it's hard to be or hard to know my channel, not his. He basically has the same channel as mine, but his main focus is boy bands and vocal groups, where my videos tend to be more harmonies in general. Why that became, I don't know, but that's just kind of how it is. So my identical twin brother, I have an identical twin brother named Daniel, and he has a channel a lot like mine. So like harmony videos, covers, stuff like that, and discussions too. So me and my twin brother Daniel, we are born in 1994, and in Canada, if you're born in 1994, you start school in September of 1998. So, taking you back quite some time ago. So, my brother and I, we started school September of 1998, and our school bus had a radio. And so going to school and going back from school, we would hear music. And my brother and I, we were one of the last ones off. So how that works is you'll be like one of the first ones on and one of the last ones off. So we were one of the last ones off and one of the first ones on. And so back and forth we were listening to music. So I remember a handful of the songs that I still know to this day. From that time period. So I remember like Cher's "Do You Believe in Love After Love After Love." I remember songs like "I'm Blue, da ba dee da ba die, da ba dee da ba die." I remember songs like "Boom Boom Boom Boom, I Want You in My Room, We'll Spend the Night Together from now until forever." So, um, funny enough, I remember being 4 or 5 years old singing I remember singing that song. When it would come on, I would sing along. Not really knowing what it was about. But um so I have a lot of memories of listening to music on the bus. And this was the first time I was really listening to popular music at the time. So I was being made aware of the popular music at the time. And this was the first time I was really absorbing like the music scene, because I was listening to the radio regularly. It was like my everyday life. And in the spring, I think, yes, in the spring of 1999, of course, Backstreet Boys released "I Want It That Way." In Canada, the song hit number one, and "I Want It That Way" played all the time. So Backstreet Boys' "I Want It That Way" was playing all the time. And every time I would get on the bus, I would hope it would play because I loved that song. I loved it. Every single time it came on, I just remember trying to listen through like the people talking on the bus, probably talking about Pokemon or professional wrestling. Those were really hot at the time, WWF, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and of course like Pokemon, the first gen of Pokemon. Or how about Crazy Bones? You guys remember Crazy Bones? That was such a cool thing back in the day. Um, this was a little bit before Beyblades and stuff. It was all about the boy bands and pro wrestling and Pokemon, and yeah, man, what a time. So I just remember like trying to listen through everybody talking to hear the song. I have this very particular memory where the whole bus was singing "I Want It That Way." Like, I think it started with the older kids, like the 7th and 8th graders. So like the 7th and 8th graders, they were kind of singing it out of, just like for fun, and they're kind of holding each other in like sort of like buddy buddy kind of thing. Like, these are my yeah, I guess you guys know what I mean. I had another word in mind. um what's the word that I'm thinking about when you're like when you're got like when you have your arm around somebody out of crap, the word escapes me. I was gonna say comrades, but that's not the word I was looking for. When you guys are like, whatever, it doesn't matter. But you guys get the picture. So I remember the older kids in the back of the bus. They kind of had each other in with their arms around each other, rocking back and forth, going "Ain't nothing but a heartache," which induced the whole bus singing the song. And I remember singing along. I remember singing along. Actually, this memory was the following school year. The reason why I remember that is because I remember we weren't the youngest year anymore. So I remember there were actually kids in the younger grade singing the song too. So the 95 kids. So I have this particular memory of everybody singing "I Want It That Way" in the bus because it played, and everybody going, "Tell me why it ain't nothing but a heartache." Yeah, but that song rocked my brother and I. We loved that song. And I remember seeing the music video on TV for the first time. And I remember watching music videos as a little kid. I don't know why my parents let me do that. I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of stuff on TV. My parents were pretty strict, but for some reason I was allowed to watch music videos. I don't know, for some reason I have memories of watching music videos. I remember watching Cher's the song I was just singing. I remember seeing that music video on TV and being creeped out by her. But I remember seeing "I Want It That Way" on TV for the first time, and I'm like, wow, that's them. That's them. Seeing what they looked like. And I remember seeing Nick Carter, and I remember thinking that his hair was so cool. I wanted my hair exactly like that. And I remember thinking that I was going to make him my favorite guy because I liked his hair. I thought his hair looked so cool. Just to give you a visual aid, if you're not familiar, he had like the 90s middle part. But here's the thing. I'm going to talk to you about hair for a little while. His hair in that video, he's had that same haircut in a lot of different time periods throughout the years of their career, particularly the 90s. He officially stopped wearing that haircut in around 2000. He actually cut his hair. In late 99, but then he wore the middle part again the following year every now and then. Anyway, just goes to show how much of a nerd I am. So back to the hair thing. The thing about Nick's hair is that if you were to look up their other music videos, so let's say you look up "As Long As You Love Me," he has that same hair, or "All I Have to Give." He has that same hair, but it just doesn't look the same. It's the same haircut, but it doesn't look the same. Like, it looks a lot more like a hat, more like a bowl. There's no layers in it. It's very blunty. It's not like point cut, if you get what I mean. It's not really styled. It's very blunty. This is the way Nick had his hair for like the earlier half of their career. He always kept his hair kind of like blunty, no layers in it. Yeah, and it just looked bulky, and it looked kind of awkward. Especially if you look up "As Long As You Love Me," like, you'll see his hair looks really awkward. But if you look up "I Want It That Way," his hair just looked like, it's like he got it right that time. Like, he got his hair all like nicely layered and like point cut, and it's like, I think there's a little bit of product in there. The way that he like folds it over and stuff, and his hair at the back and sides, although he keeps it like really short, like he shaves it down. That was kind of the style back in the day, just to have like the shaved sides. That was just the thing in the 90s. It doesn't matter if your hair was long or short at the top. You could have your hair like really long at the top, but your head was like shaved all around. Even people with like short hair, like the shaved all around was like all the rage back in the 1990s. But in the I Want It That Way music video, his hair had grown out quite a bit, so it wasn't like close to the scalp. So all in all, his hair just looked his best, like in that video. His hair just looked really, really good. The other time where his hair looked pretty good, wearing his hair in that Curtains hairstyle, was the following year, because his hair was really like jagged and styled. So when he parted his hair, the following year, into that Curtains look, it looked pretty cool too. That was it looked 99 and 2000 was the best time for when he had that middle part, in my humble opinion. The thing in 2000, he kind of wore his hair like down in his face, like he would wear his hair like down. That was kind of the thing he was going for at the time. But then every now and then he would split it down the middle again. But it was basically the same hair, because like it was like really short all around. But this time it was really like heavily layered down, so it didn't look as bad. So it didn't look super disconnected. So like it looked a lot less. I guess it looked a lot less mushroom cut looking. Anyway, so going back to my story, I thought Nick's hair was really, really cool. And I remember when the video ended, my brother told me he's my favorite guy. So my brother dubbed Nick his favorite guy. And for the same reason, he liked his hair. He thought his hair was really cool. And throughout our life, my brother and I, we both thought that hair was really cool. Personally, I've had that hair. Not as good looking as how Nick had it, but I remember going to the barber shop and asking for that hair. I have this particular memory. I'm not sure if any of you guys remember Max Steel. This was a thing from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Max Steel, like the action figure, or like it's more like a doll. I used to play with Max Steel dolls. It's like this. He's kind of like a superhero, like. He's kind of like a superhero kind of guy, like a James Bond / superhero kind of guy. And he had curtains. The doll had curtains, and his hair looked really nice. I remember this one time I actually brought my action figure to the hair cutters, and I'm like, I want my hair like this. So, because my brother dubbed Nick Carter his favorite guy, that means I couldn't have the same favorite guy as him. So, I decided to choose Brian as my favorite guy instead. That was my alternative haircut, was just like down hair. That was like before Curtains, like before witnessing what was on Nick Carter's head. The down haircut was like my haircut. So like, I know this is like when I was really, really young, but that was my hairstyle. Like I remember I had this Fisher Price toy. And when I was really, really young, I had this Fisher Price toy, and his hair was down. Like it was like a little boy toy thing, playset, and the action figure kind of looking thing had down hair, and I thought his hair looked cool. So that was like my alternate hair, and so I thought, I figured Brian kind of had that down hair at the time. He still kind of does. He kept that similar haircut, like the down hair. Just kind of like moppy bangs kind of hanging down. And he was the only one who wore a blue jacket. If you watch the I Want It That Way music video, Brian's the only one who's wearing a blue jacket. Everybody else is wearing black. So I remember picking him because, well, first of all, I liked the fact that he sang first. I liked his hair. I liked his blue jacket because my favorite color is blue. I also really liked his voice. So Brian became my favorite guy. At the time, my brother and I didn't know their names. We knew Backstreet Boys, and that was it. We didn't know their names, right? We didn't see them in any interviews. We weren't reading teen magazines or anything like that. So yeah. And every now and then we would hear them on the radio. And yeah. So my brother and I, that was an awakening moment for me, because that was like one of my first favorite songs. And yeah, so I've been a fan of theirs since then, since 1999. So let's fast forward in time. The following year, I think sometime that next year, we got a new bus, and it didn't have a radio in it. So like for some of the following year, we didn't have a radio on the bus. So the bus rides were kind of boring after that. So my recollection of like songs from like 2000, 2001, I have a lot less of a recollection from that time, or a little less of a recollection because I wasn't listening to the radio every day like I was before. Either that or like Either that or like a parent complained or something that like don't play the radio because like kids are coming home and singing inappropriate songs. I know I was. Um, maybe it was my parent. Maybe it was my parents. Wow, what a twist. I don't know. Maybe not. Um, but my memories of the radio, I don't remember the radio playing after that. Even my brother agrees that we weren't listening to the radio on the bus anymore. There was somebody at my school who was grades above us, easily 3 or 4. She had a Backstreet Boys shirt. To my memory, it was white, but I remember it was a Backstreet Boys shirt, and I always wanted to get a good look at that shirt. Every now and then she would come to school wearing this Backstreet Boys shirt, and I kept trying to get a glance, but I couldn't. And I wasn't like friends with her or anything. I have no idea who she is even up to this point. That was a really long time ago. And I would always try to get a good look at the shirt, but I couldn't. I think it was white. Maybe it was black. I don't know. But from far away, it looked like there was somebody with curtains on it. The curtains haircut. So, yep. So I'm gonna fast forward to like 2002-ish. I just think in my story it just kind of skips a little bit. Anyway, let's make this 2002. Anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I remember a kid on my bus, or not a kid on my bus, a kid in my class. I was singing "I Want It That Way" and we were discussing what were the lyrics because I didn't really know. And he was telling me that it was "Ain't nothing but a best friend." I'm like, are you sure? I remember him singing that. We're in like grade 2 or something. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound right. Anyways, I remember him telling me that Backstreet Boys broke up. And I was really upset about that. I was like, what? No. Because when I at the word that they broke up made me think that they like didn't like each other anymore. And I was like, no. Anyway, hopefully I'm getting this timeline right. So, I remember, I think I was in grade 2. Yeah, I was in grade 2. Okay, so this was 2002. And at the time, my dad, we actually moved. So we were living some towns away from our school. So we didn't take the bus anymore. Yeah. We were taking like a van. Yeah, so we were like taking a van to school, like an alternative to a bus because we lived pretty far away. And so there were some kids who lived pretty far away. It's a law in Canada that all families need to have access to a French school. So you could live like an hour and a half away from school if the closest French school is like an hour and a half away, they will send you transportation an hour and a half away to get you to school because it's a law in Canada that every family needs access to a French school. So we were now living pretty far away. And so we were taking a bus to school or a van to school, and I remember the van wouldn't play like the mainstream radio. They would play the radio, but they were playing stuff from Not This Time. Like I remember hearing like American Woman, stay away from me, American Woman. Like I remember that on the radio a bunch. They were listening to like a radio from like a radio station that would play like older rock music and stuff like that. And my brother and I, we weren't shy. We would sing Backstreet Boys on the bus. We would sing Backstreet Boys on in the van. We had no shame. My brother and I, we would sing, and nobody would make any comments. They would just, and we only knew like 2 songs. But anyway, my dad, at the time, he was downloading stuff off the internet, kind of like a Napster kind of thing. And yeah, so he would download music, and I would come home and see the computer was on, and then there's our old like beige computer. All computers were like beige back in the day. Not the Apple computers, but most computers were like beige. Anyway, so the bar, like I would see a bunch of downloads, like these bars like slowly filling up. At the time, the internet was so much more ghetto, and it took forever to download stuff. So my dad would download music and stuff, and then my brother and I, we were a little shy to ask, but we asked our dad, could you download Backstreet Boys? And my dad's like, okay. So what my dad did, he didn't download music, he downloaded music videos. So there's going to be, by the way, I really hope I'm getting history right. A lot takes place in this like 2002 kind of year era. So I remember my dad said he would download some Backstreet Boys stuff, and my dad ended up downloading the I Want It That Way music video and the Larger Than Life music video. And so I remember coming home from school and like seeing if the download was finished. And it would take forever. And yeah, so we had the I Want It That Way music video and the Larger Than Life video. And my brother and I, we would chain watch it. Like, oh, so you're saying we can just like watch this on a loop if we wanted? That's what we did. I remember at the time we were having my parents bought a house, and for some reason the builder kept postponing when the house would be finished being built, and it was a whole ordeal. I remember my parents were very upset. My parents bought a house, or my parents were looking to buy a house. They ended up giving the house to somebody else, which was a family who I ended up becoming friends with. And then the house next to them, they were looking to buy that house, but then they gave the house to somebody else again, so then we ended up getting the house next to that one. And the first house they were looking to get was actually the biggest one in the lot, like in the neighborhood, and it had the biggest backyard, and we didn't end up getting that one. At least that's what I remember. So we ended up having to stay at somebody's house because my parents sold the house, but they kept postponing when our house was going to be done. So we ended up living in someone's basement in the same town. And so we ended up living in the basement, and my parents wouldn't come home until a little later. So we would come home from school and they wouldn't come home yet. So the family that we were staying with actually wasn't a family, it was a couple. So the couple we were staying with, I think they were supposed to look after us when we would come home from school. So we were supposed to like knock on the door and they would let us in or look after us. They were supposed to like look out for the bus, but they wouldn't. They would never look out for my brother and I, and we're in grade 2 at the time. And so we lived in the basement, and to get there, you can get there by going to like a back door. And the back door wasn't like a sliding door or anything. It was like a legit door. And so my brother and I were too small at the time to open up the fence. Like the fence opens up from behind it. So what my brother and I would do is one of us would climb the fence and then open it. So my brother and I, we would routinely climb the fence, and then we would open the fence for each other. And then we would let ourselves in the back. And then we'd turn on the computer and watch Backstreet Boys videos. The 2 Backstreet Boys videos. That was our life for a while. And then my dad kept downloading stuff. My dad was just in like a downloading phase. And I remember asking my dad if he could download more. So my brother and I, we waited patiently for more videos. And so my dad downloaded 2 more videos. Actually downloaded 3 more videos. He downloaded Drowning, the Drowning video, not the wet one. Drowning, and then he downloaded Shape of My Heart. And then the next one that he downloaded was them performing at the Grammys in 2000, which was a video I didn't watch very much. I preferred watching their music videos over that video. I don't have a lot of memories watching it that much. And I remember seeing Shape of My Heart and Drowning, and seeing how they looked, because they didn't look familiar to me, because the I Want It That Way music video and the um Larger Than Life video, I was used to them looking like that, you know what I mean? Like that's like with their haircuts and their facial hair, and I was used to how they looked then, and so I'm looking at them and they look different. I'm like, oh, they look different now. I was a little disappointed. Of course, I liked Nick's hair the way it was. Of course, in Drowning and in Shape of My Heart, his hair's different. But yeah. So I remember thinking like, oh, okay, so like their looks have changed. Even though Shape of My Heart's like the next year, Kevin grew his hair out and everything. Howie got rid of his. I actually really like Howie with that beard, his intricately trimmed beard. I really like his beard like that. Yeah, he got rid of that. He was straightening his hair, and then he had a scruff. I didn't really like the way Howie looked. I don't like the way Howie looked in that video, to be honest. The straight hair and like I don't mind the scruff, but the straightened hair, I'm not really for. And then AJ looked a little more goth looking. Like he had this earring in his mouth, and he had like the black nails and stuff. And he had like these aviator glasses. Brian looked almost the same. Kevin had long hair now. He like grew his hair out. So I was getting used to that they look different afterwards. But my brother and I, we really loved the 2 new songs that we were learning, and so we would always come home from school and we would watch those videos until our parents basically got home. We would chain watch those videos. I wonder where that computer is now. I really wonder. Also, around this time, I remember fighting with my dad that Backstreet Boys sang "Bye Bye Bye." I don't even know why I would argue. I thought the song was really cool, and my dad was insisting that it wasn't Backstreet Boys. It's NSYNC, and my dad's like, I know it's NSYNC. I know it's not Backstreet Boys. Yeah, at the time, I felt like if I liked both groups, like that just won't do. Like you have to like either. For some reason, I'm like I have to like either or. For some reason, I don't know why. So I had heard Drowning on the radio, and I didn't know that was Backstreet Boys. So I was like, oh, okay. I like the song anyway. So up to this point, my brother and I didn't actually know the Backstreet Boys' names. We knew their faces, but we didn't know their names. So my cousin, I've a couple cousins. One of them's 2 years older than my brother and I, and then we have another cousin. Her brother was 3 years older than us. And every now and then, my dad would drop us off at our aunt's house, and we would kind of hang out with them. Anyway, they had, for the fans, the blue one, and they had the red one. And so, I believe they belonged to my cousin who's 2 years older than me. She's, it's a brother and sister, so I believe it belonged to her. And, so my brother and I just kept looking at the pamphlet. Actually, I think what happened was we were driving somewhere. We decided to hop into the car, and then we drove somewhere. And they had Backstreet Boys, for the fans, the blue pamphlet in the car. And we kept looking at it. Either that or we brought it into the car. I just remember being in the car. So I was looking at it, and I just kept looking at it. And it said their names underneath their faces in the pamphlet. And this was the blue one. Did I say that already? Anyways, the blue pamphlet. I still have it. So the blue pamphlet. And I'm looking at it, and my brother and I, we couldn't really read all that well. We actually we learned to read a little bit late, because my brother and I had some difficulty. My brother and I have attention deficit disorder, and it took us a little longer to learn stuff. So we could kind of read by grade 2, but like still kind of struggling. And this was definitely 2002, because I remember being in the car, and there were Star Wars Episode 2 Valentine's Day cards in the car with us. So I remember that very well. So anyway, I got my older cousin, the boy. I got my older cousin to read me the names. And I remember he read me the names, and I was really excited to learn their names. And I remember him pronouncing Howie's name Howie. Like Howie, I'm like Howie. What kind of a name is Howie? I would learn later it's pronounced Howie, but I'll get to that in a bit. So, another piece to this Backstreet Boys story. This is when I learned their names. My cousin had the pamphlet, and because my brother and I kept looking at this pamphlet, I remember I think we went into Zeller's. So we walked into Zeller's, and my brother and I actually brought the pamphlet into Zeller's. We just kept looking at it. And because every time we would get a hold of something Backstreet Boys, my brother and I, we would always like be really excited about it. And so yeah, and so I kept telling my brother like, oh, like his name's Nick and stuff. And yeah, for some reason I thought Brian's name was Nick. I knew someone in the band's name was Nick, and I thought Brian's name was Nick, but it turns out Brian's name is Brian. So yeah. And the names came to me to a surprise, like AJ. I wouldn't have even a thought about like an AJ, but he looks like an AJ. Actually, our cousin let us keep that. That's why I said we still have it to this day. Our cousin let us keep the pamphlet, so we have it to this day. I remember I had a friend while we were still living in the other town, and he had the yellow pamphlet for the fans. He had the yellow for the fans pamphlet. So I was really amused that he had that one. I had already seen the other two pamphlets, so I was looking at the pictures on the inside of the yellow pamphlet. And I remember that I was able to read that I Want It That Way was on the yellow one, on the yellow for the fans album. And so I remember thinking like, wow, that must be awesome, having that. And he also had a poster of Backstreet Boys. I remember the image. I've seen it since. I could find it on Google Images probably. And it's them kind of sitting in a circle, like laying down on the ground in a circle rather. And so it's kind of set in a way where you can like choose who's right side up as far as the poster, because they're lying on the ground like in a circle. And I remember Nick, he had his hand on his chin like a thinking pose. He had his eyebrows up, and I remember thinking that was a silly pose. And they looked like 1999. It's a little before the music video. Again, the shorter hair. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look at it again. But it's definitely 1999. So I thought that was a really cool poster, and I pulled the trigger and I asked my friend, "Hey, can I have it?" And my friend's like, "No." he wanted to keep it. So in the summer, I think it was the summer of 2002. The reason why I say it's summer because my brother and I, we were too young to stay at home alone. We would have to follow our dad around, because my dad, he sold insurance. He still does. He's been doing it since the early 90s. We had a family business selling insurance. And my dad, he would travel all over the GTA. So not Grand Theft Auto. I know it's the most common word for GTA, but here in Canada, GTA GTA stands for Greater Toronto Area. So if you were to make like a radius around the city of Toronto, it's roughly an hour's ways out in each direction. There is a designated cutoff of where the GTA ends, but just to like make a rough statement, it's about an hour's ways out. Although if you travel south from Toronto, you end up in water. But I think you get what I'm trying to say. It's about an hour's ways out in each direction from the city of Toronto, and Toronto included. So, my brother and I, we would follow our dad around, and our dad would give us some drawing paper, and we would draw on the car. And sometimes, we had to go to people's houses, or my dad would have to make rendezvous with people at like a Tim Hortons or McDonald's, something like that. And my brother and I, we would just draw, and it wasn't a bad time. And you can actually follow us. We still draw to this day. Drawing's one of our biggest passions. So you can follow us on Instagram. We share some of our drawings on there. at Brotunes Twins on Instagram. But anyway, in between appointments, my dad and my brother and I, we would just like do stuff. Like maybe we would eat. Sometimes we went to go see a movie. But this time we visited this video store, and this video store was in Toronto. I don't know where in Toronto. I would think it personally would be really funny if I ever go there again. I have no idea where it is. The city of Toronto is quite big too, but it was this video store in Toronto, and it was quite large. There was VHSs upon VHS tapes, and so my brother and I, we browsed around with our dad, and we broke off separately from him. And my dad, you know, he would often bring home a VHS tape from like a pawn shop or something, you know, get a VHS tape for like $4 or something, and have something to watch when he got home, just spice things up. And so my brother and I, we saw two Backstreet Boys VHS tapes, and I think we were too short at the time to like reach it. It was on like the top shelf, and my dad, he saw that we were looking at these tapes, so he brought it down for us, and we each had one in our hands, and we were kind of looking at it. And our dad's like, okay, you can have one. So our dad let us pick one. So one of them was An Evening with the Backstreet Boys from 1998, and the other one was For the Fans, the VHS tape that you got from your Burger King meal from 2000. So our dad told us to get An Evening with the Backstreet Boys because there's more songs on it. And An Evening with the Backstreet Boys, that cassette tape was like a whole program, right? I think you can watch it on YouTube, but they have a whole band. It's an intimate setting. Each group member got a little solo. They had a long list of songs. You know, they spiced some songs up a little bit. It was a whole program. But the other one was like a snippet of a concert that you got with your Burger King meal. But because it had Larger Than Life and I Want It That Way on it, plus they looked like the cover of the box, they looked like Millennium. So, you know, Nick with his hair and everything. Although you can tell it was a little bit before the music video because his hair's a little shorter. Lots of hair in this video. But so instead of choosing the 1998 one, we could see that they looked different, right? Nick had grown his hair quite long. Basically, he had the Curtains haircut, but like he had grown it quite long, and he parted his hair off to the side. So anyway, we decided to choose the For the Fans one because they looked more like what we were familiar with. So we chose that, and we were really excited. We didn't even wait to bring it home to actually watch it. The appointment after that my dad had made with somebody, we actually we visited their house, and while my dad was talking insurance with them, he asked if we could watch our videotape in another room. So my brother and I watched the videotape in another room, and we were really excited about it. So we actually learned new songs from this. A lot of the tracks were off of the Millennium album. If I remember correctly, all of them were, except for All I Have to Give. So we learned all of these songs from that videotape. And it's kind of funny because we would sing it just how they performed it. So it's not exactly how they sang it, like in the studio. So, you know, live performances, sometimes they vary in how they sound. So often they sound quite different from the actual track. So we would sing it like how they would do it live. For example, All I Have to Give. But love is all I have to give. And AJ goes, to you and you and you and you, baby. And he's like pointing to a bunch of people in the crowd. And my brother and I, we would sing it like that. Although he doesn't do that on the actual track. I do remember being quite disappointed with the I Want It That Way performance. I thought it kind of sounded weird. Like the way they did stuff. I thought Nick was like overdoing it too. Like I remember him going like, tell me why, huh, yeah. I never wanna hear you say. And I remember not liking that. Like I was like, I kind of wish he just kind of sang it how the actual track goes. Like I didn't like how we went, I never wanna, instead of just like, I never wanna hear you say. Anyway, but it was still awesome, and we got to see the Backstreet Boys being themselves and talking and learning about them, and because we never really got to know them too much before then. After upon learning their names, that's all we kind of knew about them. So we got to see them like interacting and talking about stuff, and so we thought that was really cool, and a lot of like backstage stuff. Yeah, so that was a big deal to us, and we watched that VHS tape over and over, and it was already worn out. It was already worn out. Like the owners before, they wore that tape out before they got rid of it, and it didn't bother me at all. It's kind of funny. Like years later, I started rewatching some of the old VHS tapes that I used to watch, and it bugged me a lot, right? Because like CDs don't do that, and but that was my life. Like, the VHS era, like the scratchiness and stuff. Like, I didn't care. It was just my life. That's how I watched stuff. And because of this Burger King videotape, my brother and I, we would actually sing songs for people. Like, I remember there were times where we actually wanted to perform in front of people. Like, we would have family friends come over, like my mom's friend, and like, oh, can we sing for you? We did this at least like 4 or 5 times, and it was almost like a little concert because we had the list of songs. And we would sing it, and yeah, but as you will see, that stuff kind of changed as I progressively get into this story. So another memory I have, this was around the same time. I have a pretty good memory. This was around the same time. I remember my dad he surprised us, and he brought home Backstreet Boys black and blue stickers. I'm not sure if any of you have seen these, but there was black and blue Backstreet Boys stickers. And so all of the photos and stuff was from the Black and Blue album photo shoot. And yeah, so my dad bought us stickers. And at the back it would say like some the back would say some information about them. And we thought that was really cool. And that's how I learned that Brian and Kevin were cousins. I remember it said that Nick collected, or the AJ collected, I think it was sunglasses. It said he collected sunglasses. Yeah, so that's another memory I have. I wish I knew where those stickers were. I don't think I used all of them. I think I used some of them, but I didn't use all of them. So that'd be pretty cool if I could find those stickers. Maybe they're just gone forever, but that was another memory I have from around that same time. Alright, so let's fast forward to late 2002 at this point. My brother and I, unfortunately, well, I don't really care anymore, but at the time, I was really sad because we had to change schools. So my parents decided that we were going to go to a school that was a little closer instead of traveling pretty far away. And it was like hard to work out the like bus stops and stuff, and but anyway, so we changed schools, and so we had to be brave, and so we didn't have a good start when we changed schools. There was a girl in our class, and I remember catching her singing Backstreet's Back. Now, I didn't know the song Backstreet's Back. I actually didn't know the song at the time. Anything that wasn't on any of the material I just said, I didn't know about. So I had or not a friend, but I don't know if maybe she was my friend, I don't know. There was a girl in my class who, her favorite song was Backstreet's Back, and I caught her singing it. And I thought she was singing Don't Want You Back. Backstreet Boys fans will know why. Because of the lyrics, there's Backstreet's Back, alright. And so I thought she was singing Don't Want You Back. So my brother and I, we started singing Don't Want You Back. And she was trying to hear us sing, right? Because I was telling her, like, my brother and I like Backstreet Boys too. So we were trying to sing Don't Want You Back. And I guess some of the kids in our class like heard us. We were in a split class, so it was third grade mixed with some fourth graders, and I guess like some kids heard us. We already weren't people were already kind of like not nice to us, but I guess some of the older kids learned that we were singing Backstreet Boys, and they let us have it. Like that was not accepted. In my old school, I would openly talk about Backstreet Boys to the kids in my class. Like Backstreet Boys was cool, but in this new school, Backstreet Boys wasn't cool. So kids started calling us gay. So my brother and I, they would tease us. This was our first real taste of being bullied. So my brother and I, who were in the same class, the older kids would keep calling us gay, and so that kind of hurt. My brother and I were kind of embarrassed, so we kind of tucked singing away. We kind of tucked Backstreet Boys away, or like for Backstreet Boys. So we never mentioned it ever again. We still sang on the bus because the kids on the bus were like nicer, but eventually we toned it down, and it's kind of sad. But what's kind of funny is my mom would always ask us, what happened in school and stuff. We weren't really open about it, but then eventually my mom got it out of us. It was me who actually opened up and told my mom that actually some kids at school keep calling us gay, and they would call us gay like every day. Basically, it's like, you guys are gay. And so my mom confronted them actually on the Christmas play, like during the Christmas play, because she was already at school. She told me to point out the people who made fun of us, and so my mom actually confronted them. I was embarrassed. That she had to like confront them for me, but they stopped. They did stop. So after the Christmas play, and after we returned from school and everything, they stopped calling my brother and I gay after that. We still weren't treated the best, but they stopped calling us gay, at least. Which, by the way, my brother and I aren't gay. Just in case it like lingered your interest. I know my brother, like, I don't know, my brother and I, we seem to be into all this boy band music, but I mean that doesn't really define like your sexuality or whatever. But I can see how that might make people think that, because out of all of the boy bands that we've had, there always tends to be one of them that's gay. Not all of them, but there's a lot of them, like Westlife, Boyzone, NSYNC, Human Nature, the Moffats, if you count that as a boy band, Blue. There's probably more. I can probably think of more, but anyway, yeah. So my brother and I were not gay, and but the bullying did kind of sting. Anyway, so afterwards, the next thing I'm gonna say is we ended up finding out that we had some relatives. This is all within the same year. We found out that we have some relatives from the Philippines who had recently moved to Canada, and we don't have a lot of relatives on our Filipino side. So my brother and I are half Filipino. So on our Filipino side, we don't actually have a lot of relatives here. So my mom kind of independently came to Canada in 1988 because she wanted a better life, and so she had been in Canada for a long time without any family or anything. So finally, some family moved over here. They're not like really close family though. They share like a grandma, but in the Philippines, they really keep tabs on that stuff. Family's like a bigger deal there. So anyway, one of my relatives, their sisters, one of my relatives owned the Millennium album, and she kind of carried it with her. I don't know if she had a Discman, but I had a Discman. But she had the Millennium album, and I knew that it was the album that had I Want It That Way on it because of the way they looked on the cover. So, because they looked like basically the music video. Again, you can tell it's a little bit before, like haircuts are shorter and stuff. But I knew that was the album that had I Want It That Way on it. And looking at the back, I can see the track listing. My brother and I, like, getting better and better at reading. We could see that a large portion of the songs were the same as on the For the Fans VHS tape. So she let us listen to it, and we're finally hearing the studio versions of the songs on the For the Fans VHS tape, the Burger King thing. And it's funny because we would always sing it like how they performed it live. So we kind of sang it differently than how they sang it on the studio album. And sometimes my brother and I, we would sing in front of people, like, hey, want to listen to us sing? We used to do that. Like my brother and I, we used to like have a little set, and we would sing. We would sing all of the songs from. We would sing all the songs from the VHS tape. That VHS tape meant a lot to us. So we would always sing the songs from the VHS tape and from the 4 music videos on our computer. So 2 of them were already on Millennium, or I mean on the VHS tape, but Drowning and Shape of My Heart, those were the 2 other songs. So we would listen to this. I remember they visited, and my brother and I, we would listen to the album. We would listen to the album, and like once it was over, we would just replay it. And our relative knew, like, we really liked Backstreet Boys. We were really into Backstreet Boys, and finally we got ourselves some solid material. Like, this was the Backstreet Boys album. And so she came over to our house. I think she had her Discman. Because actually, I don't know. I just remember she gave us the disc. Like, she actually gave us the disc. She was like, here, you can have it. I was like, what? But she never gave us the cover. So we didn't have the cover. She actually gave us the special Japanese edition that had an extra song on it. And I'll talk about that later. There's something funny about the extra song. So anyway, yeah, so we would listen to it over and over. And I remember she was over for a while. Like, she came over for a while. And I remember, like, at one point we were eating dinner, and we brought the stereo down, and we were listening to the album while we were eating dinner. And my dad was probably annoyed. But yeah, our relative let us keep it. And so it was ours. We had a Backstreet Boys album. And my brother and I, we were like we felt like this freedom. Like, yeah, like, we have a Backstreet Boys album. And so my brother and I, we kept listening to this album over and over. Every time we came home from school, we would listen to this album over and over. And my brother and I, we would try to, like, mimic their vocals and stuff. For example, in the song I Went That Way, how he goes, you are... Sorry, my voice is kind of worn out because I've been talking a lot today. You are my fire, the one desire. So he goes, desire. But when I was a kid, I used to sing it like this. Desire. So pay attention. Desire. And my brother corrected me. I remember my brother correcting me and being like, nope, that's not how we sang it. I'm like, it's not? No, it's not. He sang it like this. Desire. Not desire. It's desire. The way he did the little run there. Yeah, my brother corrected me. It's desire. You are. So I remember that. My brother and I, we used to try to mimic their vocals. Like, vowel for vowel, run for run. I feel like my voice is going out soon. I'm talking a lot today. We had guests over. And I also sang in the shower too, so that doesn't help. And I was singing Backstreet Boys in the shower. The song Chances really got on me. I was singing it. What if I never run into you? It's a good song. Anyway, so back to 2003. Let's think. Easily the same year, if not the next year. Actually, hold on, let me think. Is there anything in between that I could have added? I don't think so. Okay, so either the same year or the next year. It might have been the next year. There was a girl on our bus who was very amused of us singing Backstreet Boys, and she would sing with us. And she had a blast singing with us. and it made us feel better about the whole thing, that there was someone else singing with us. So she would sing Backstreet Boys with us, and I remember one time she brought over on the bus the Black and Blue album. I think this belonged to her older sister. Her older sister was like in the 8th grade. Um, yeah, so she brought this album. She brought this album on the bus. Actually, her sister was in high school at this point, because her sister was in the 8th grade the year before. I think this was the 4th grade now. I think this was the 4th grade. So the following year, she brought Black and Blue on the bus one day, and she gave it to us. She literally gave it to us. She didn't let us borrow it. She gave it to us. Like, here, I want you guys to have it. Now you can learn. This is what she said. Now you can learn songs that you don't know, and we can sing it together on the bus. And I'm like, whoa, are you kidding? And it was great because we loved the Black and Blue album. We're hearing some new songs. We got to learn them. We literally memorized them very, very quickly, and we started singing them on the bus with her. And we learned that "Shape of My Heart" was on that album. It's like, oh, okay, "Shape of My Heart's on this album." And the date is clearly on the bottom of the disc. It says 2000, and the Millennium album, deceivingly, because it says Millennium, it's called Millennium. They should have called it Into the Millennium. That's what the tour is called. But deceivingly, the Millennium album's 1999, so not the 2000 album. So it's kind of weird how that turned out. So, yep. So we learned all these songs, and it was awesome, and we loved it. Like songs like "More Than That," and all these songs that we really, really loved. Admittedly, I think I still like the Millennium. I still liked the Millennium album better. Even now, I think I still like the Millennium album better. But Black and Blue, I loved it though. It was really awesome. And so she let us keep it. And I think like the next year, either the next year or the year after, she ended up leaving. So she's not getting her disc back. We still have it too. But she never got her disc back, and she probably never asked her sister for permission. Unless it was actually hers. But who's to say? Who's to say? Okay, so what can I say next? I remember probably around this time, we rented a VHS tape, and in the town that we were living in, there was a video store. It was a hot video store. Like, the whole town knew this video store, and everybody rented videos from there. And they gave you free popcorn, which is pretty awesome. They had this big popcorn machine, and when you walked in, it just smelled so good. And it was like yellow. Like, the popcorn was yellow, so you know it's good. Anyway, so I remember browsing around. There and seeing a Backstreet Boys VHS tape. And it was from their first album. So I don't know if they did this for all their albums, but for the first 2 albums, Backstreet Boys and Backstreet's Back, they put out these like VHS tapes on the album and like on the year preceding the album, like them touring and stuff. So it was that. And so my brother and I, we asked our dad if he can rent it for us, and so he did. And so we ended up watching this Backstreet Boys VHS tape, and this is we were learning pre-millennium at this point now. So we were learning about them before. So like Nick, he's like younger looking, and they all have like no facial hair and stuff. Much of them had like Caesar haircuts and stuff. I remember seeing Brian with earrings for the first time. Like I'm like, Brian had earrings? What? And Howie with short hair and no beard. Like, he was like unrecognizable to me. I'm like, what the heck? That's what he looked like? And we were learning all of these songs. I remember hearing Brian calling himself B-Rock, and I'm like, what the heck? B-Rock? Where did that come from? Like, in the beginning, he was trying to make that nickname, like, make that nickname stick, but he ended up kind of giving it up afterwards. So, yeah, and so my brother and I, we brought that home, and we were watching it over and over until we had to give it back, and we were learning their their older songs and watching the music videos from their older songs. And my brother and I found it very awkward because in Millennium they have more of a mature look and they act more mature, but then in the older one they kind of like it looked like they were trying to act cool, like they were trying to act cool. You know what I mean? And like, Howie, AJ, and Kevin often didn't have shirts on and stuff, and that made us feel kind of awkward. Just like in the concerts, like in the concert clips and stuff, and like some of the music videos, like, or at least in one particular music video, you guys know which one. They don't have like their shirts on and stuff, and my brother and I found that really awkward. Um, I'm not sure if I'm getting this timeline right again, because I remember my cousin Lisa, she got married. Yeah, I have more older cousins. My brother and I are basically the youngest, as far as the cousins. So my older cousin Lisa got married, and her husband is a computer guy, so he knows a lot about computers and stuff. And she knew that we liked Backstreet Boys. And I remember at one point we were asking her younger sister, my cousin Lisa, her younger sister Michelle, my cousin Michelle. We were asking her about Backstreet Boys because she actually went to a Backstreet Boys concert. My brother and I kept asking her about it, and I remember, I remember asking, what did Nick look like? What did his hair look like? There's a lot of Nick's hair in this video. And she said his hair was spiky, and then we asked what everybody else looked like, and she said AJ's hair was blue. So if there was ever a time that you can find on YouTube where Nick had spiky hair and AJ had blue hair, yeah, that was probably she probably went to go see them in Toronto. So yeah, if that's findable on YouTube, that's probably a concert you went to. So AJ with blue hair and Nick with spiky hair. That's what I remember anyway. So, my cousin Lisa, her husband, actually made us a disc. He made us a disc with Backstreet Boys music videos on it. And so my brother and I, we were excited about that. So, the disc had, and my brother and I, we used to watch this disc all the time. We had this portable DVD player, the kind that you put in a car. And we kept it in our room, so we kind of watched it like as if we were watching it on a laptop kind of thing. We would always watch it like that. And so the disc had, let's see, the disc had The Call. The disc had Get Down. The disc also had Quit Playing Games, Everybody, Backstreet's Back, I Want It That Way, Larger Than Life. I think that's it. So it had the music videos of The Call, Get Down, Everybody, Backstreet's Back, Quit Playing Games with My Heart, I Want It That Way, Larger Than Life. Am I missing one? I feel like I said more last time. Get Down, The Call. I think that was the one I missed. The Call, Get Down, I Want It That Way, Larger Than Life, Quit Playing Games with My Heart, and who cares? Whatever. That's all the ones that I said. I already said it before. I'm getting mixed up now. But yeah, those were the songs that were on there. So we ended up learning those songs. So I'm trying to remember if we saw that VHS tape before, because I don't remember. I feel like Quit Playing Games, I feel like that disc was the first time I saw that. And I'm trying to remember if we saw The Call, that music video, before we actually heard the album. Because I'm trying to remember if I was like, oh, The Call's from this album. Anyway, just a fair warning, maybe I'm getting the timeline wrong. It was a long time ago now. But yeah, that was really exciting. So we're learning all these songs. And we liked all of them. Get Down, The Call, and seeing the different kinds of looks that they had throughout the years up to that point. Okay. So another memory I have is going to the video store again. This time in the kids section, and I remember noticing this gem, okay? This absolute gem. It was Arthur with the Backstreet Boys. Excuse me? How did I not know about this? I mean, I think that it must have been pretty new. It must have been pretty new. But yeah, they actually that came out in 2002. This was not 2002 at this point, I don't think. But anyway, so they had Backstreet Boys with Arthur. Arthur, if you didn't know, is a kids show. Very good kids show. If you didn't watch Arthur growing up, well, it's too bad. It's really too bad. It's a great show. It's still going. It's like The Simpsons. It's just going on forever. Muffy and like Francine have smartphones now, which makes me feel really awkward. Really, really awkward. I like outgrew Arthur. Like Arthur's still a kid. Arthur actually technically is older than me. I think the show started in 1996 or 7. So, but then I like became the same age as Arthur in the 3rd grade in 2003. And then yeah, like outgrew Arthur and he just stayed the same. But I loved Arthur. I would still watch Arthur actually. Every now and then when I watch TV, I don't really watch TV anymore, but like if Arthur's on, there's been times where I call Arthur, but like the newer episodes make me feel really awkward. But anyway, this was Backstreet Boys with Arthur. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I was pleased to see Nick had the Curtains haircut. In his Arthur cartoon form, Nick had the Curtains haircut. And I remember thinking they really mixed up the timeline here, because it in the video, or even on the cover, Kevin has long hair. Like his hair, he looks like from Black and Blue, okay? He looks like he's from Black and Blue. Nick looks like he's from like Millennium. His hair's not really all that detailed, so it could be from any time he had curtains, basically. But I believe they're trying to go for Millennium. AJ looks like he's from Millennium too, basically. Brian looks like he could be from like any time, maybe Millennium. Howie doesn't look like when did Howie ever look like that? I think they were trying to make him look like how he looked in his modern state. So what he looked like in 2002, I think he got his hair cut pretty short. Like he cut like short hair or something, but Howie didn't look like anything that I recognized. Like maybe Howie from like even earlier. What I'm thinking, cuz like they gave him like really short hair and they made his hair like fro looking. I know Howie has curly hair, but his hair isn't a fro. Like basically, not to sound racist, I'm not trying to be racist. I don't even think I need to apologize or anything. But they made him look black. Like he had like a fro and they gave him like really tan skin, like tanner than what he actually looks like. Like how he's Latino and he looks it. But they made him look black. I remember even showing that to my friend and like he thought that he was black. But how he isn't black. He's not black. And there's no black people in Backstreet Boys. Anyway, so watching the video, I thought the video was awesome. It was a really cool episode. The voice act and everything. And they made an I Want It That Way version, their own version, like an Arthur version of the music video. And I remember thinking, they changed Kevin's hair so that he fit the look of I Want It That Way. So he fit the look. They gave him the spiky hair. But Howie, they didn't make him look like how he did. They didn't give him the beard. They didn't give him a ponytail. They just made him look like him with an afro, like a mini fro. That's what he looked like. It kind of looked like he had a mini fro. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny. So actually, before watching the tape, this is actually kind of funny. Before watching the tape, we thought Kevin was Howie. Like on the actual tape, like on the actual box, we thought, before actually watching it, we thought Kevin was Howie because of the long hair. So I actually remember drawing an earring on his ear. I think that's what happened. I think I drew an earring on Kevin's ear. And then I realized, because the reason why I drew an earring on his ear is because I knew Howie wore an earring, and I liked earrings, and I liked Howie wearing an earring. Like I liked Howie with an earring, so I drew an earring on Kevin thinking that he was Howie, and then I'm like, wait a second. I learned after watching that's Kevin. That's Kevin. That's not Howie. And then Howie, we vandalized this box. We drew like a ponytail at the back of his head, like on the box, because the picture is Arthur with the Backstreet Boys, right? And I'm pretty sure we drew. I don't know if we drew a beard on him too, but we drew a ponytail with like a pen. So we vandalized the box. If it's still at that video store, yeah, that's kind of funny. If it's still at the video store, like we vandalized the box, and there's nothing they can do about it because it's in pen. Um, but you know what's interesting? The special features, because back in the VHS days, special features were after the credits. You had to wait after the credits to see special features. And after the credits, there's what was his name? His name's Mark something. The guy who made Arthur. Mark. I forget, but it's Mark something. And he showed us like his artwork and stuff. Like there's behind the scenes of them recording for the episode, and he was showing you his artwork. And what's interesting to me is that in his character his pre-production character designs, he actually originally had Howie with long hair. He had Howie with long hair. He had Kevin and Howie with he had both Kevin and Howie with long hair, which does make sense. In 2001, the year before, Howie and Kevin had long hair. For example, in the More Than That video, they both have long hair, so that's historically proper. So they both had long hair, and actually they made Howie's hair like that. Like they made his hair like long and curly, and I think his hair looks best like that, like long and curly. Anyway, but I guess to like remove confusion, they wanted to make him look different from Kevin or something. So they made Howie with short hair, and yeah, so yeah, didn't even give him an earring to distinct him either that he's Howie. I don't know. I just thought Howie didn't look like him that much. But anyway, that's another memory I have. I remember a little later seeing at the Hawk Shop in the same plaza as the video store. They had the Backstreet's Back version of the 1996 album videotape, like I was just mentioning to you. They had the Backstreet's Back version of that, and I was gonna ask my dad to buy it, but then I don't know, I just got too shy, so I never seen it. Actually, I might have seen it on like YouTube or something. I don't know, but I never saw it. But that was like a regret of mine for a long time, because like I think someone bought it or something and it wasn't there anymore. And I'm like, oh crap. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I remember the All I Have to Give music video in the background of that. So, wait a minute. That makes me think. I think my dad downloaded All I Have to Give the music video on our computer at one point before that. I don't know. Somewhere, I think my dad downloaded the All I Have to Give. I don't think it was on the disc that my cousin's husband gave us. I think we had All I Have to Give on the computer. He may have, yeah, we did. Because I remember the music video was, I think I think my brother and I asked our dad if he can download another Backstreet Boys video. Because I remember All I Have to Give, and I remember thinking that it was longer than the performance. Yeah. I think after we got the Burger King thing, we asked our dad if he can download another Backstreet Boys music video for us. and he downloaded All I Have to Give. And I remember it was longer than the performance because they cut it off to do the little dance sequence, and the music video was longer. Okay, so my next memory that I'm gonna say is I remember going bowling in our little town there. I remember going bowling, and they had I don't know if they like made a mixtape or something, but someone must have liked Backstreet Boys at the bowling alley because they had Backstreet Boys songs playing at the bowling alley, and they had All I Have to Give play at the bowling alley, and I remember singing along to it, and I remember hearing that it was long, like extra long. It was even longer than the music video, and I remember being like, "What is this? What is this?" And um yeah, I remember learning that like the actual song was much longer. And I remember thinking like, what? Like, what's going on? This is when I was first introduced to like different versions of songs and stuff. So the music video of All I Have to Give was shorter than the actual song, and they often performed it even shorter than the music video version. But anyway, that's another memory I have listening to Backstreet Boys in our town, uh, um, playing bowling, glow in the dark bowling, and it smelled like pure cigarettes in that place, man. But I spent a lot of birthdays there. I remember bringing the blue pan, the blue pamphlet to school at one point, and a kid on my bus was telling me that he saw a Backstreet Boys documentary, and then he started telling me about like the conflict that some of the group members were having. He was pointing the people out. I remember he called AJ AL because the J wasn't like the way it was shaped kind of looked like an L, but it's facing the other way. But he was inventing. He was basically inventing stuff. Like he was saying that AJ and Nick would like fight. Like I remember he said like they punched each other in the face or something like that. Maybe they did. I don't know. Did Nick and AJ actually fight? I think they may have. But I remember my this kid on my bus was just saying a bunch of nonsense about them. So the next memory I'm gonna share was, like I mentioned, my brother and I we would listen to Black and Blue and the Millennium album over and over. Like we would listen to it all the time. And I remember my brother and we were singing The One, and we were singing the part where it goes, "There you are, wild and free, reaching out like you needed me." So, yeah, we're singing that part. There you are, wild and free. So, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I remember we were listening to Backstreet Boys with a door open to our bedroom. We shared a bedroom, and I was singing the high harmony, and my brother was singing the melody. For some reason, I would hear it that way because I guess the high harmony is like pretty prominent in that part. So my brother and we were harmonizing. That was the first time my brother and I ever harmonized ever. And I remember my dad in the other room was like, "Hey, that was pretty good." I never harmonized before. And I remember thinking like that's really interesting. Like I pieced it together. I understood what you had to do. Like you had to sing it like differently. And yeah, my brother and I kind of looked at each other like that was pretty cool. So, considering that my YouTube channel is all about harmonies, I guess that is a pretty big moment. So, Backstreet Boys had a lot to do with that. And I remember my mom and dad. My mom and dad, they sing too. Like my dad plays all kinds of instruments. And my dad would play guitar and play piano, and he would sing, and my mom would sing with him, and my mom would sing harmonies with him. And I never paid much attention to it, but I thought it was pretty cool. Like, oh, okay. But I never like tried it. I never like try to like pinpoint like what's going on. And so when I finally harmonized with my brother, I kind of had this moment where I'm like, oh, okay, like that's how you create those sounds. I never really tried doing it like afterwards until like years later. I never actually tried to harmonize until like years later, but I got the concept. I got the concept. Actually, my mom and dad ended up separating when I was like 19, maybe 18 or 19. So it's kind of sad, but it is a little bit of a regret that I never like sang with them, like my brother and I, like making 4-part harmony with our parents. But you know, what are my next memories? Because I'm trying to do this in accordance to like my life. Um, okay, I'm just gonna move on now. So I'm getting older now, and I remember in Shoppers Drug Mart in the magazine section. Is Shoppers Drug Mart in the U.S. too? I don't even know. Shoppers Drug Mart in the magazine section. I saw that it said Backstreet Boys on it, like Backstreet Boys getting back together. So I had known that they had broken up. I also heard other things like Nick got arrested. I remember a kid telling me that Nick got arrested because he showed his dick to somebody, which is apparently true. Um, yeah, but there was some talks between their hiatus and when they showed up again. And I remember um, seeing this magazine that they're coming back together. And my brother and I, we looked inside this magazine, and I remember there were pictures of Backstreet Boys in the recording studio. And I remember there was a clear absence of Howie in some of these pictures. So I remember thinking like is he not in the group anymore? But no. But yeah, there were some pictures of them in the studio and stuff. Like I guess they're recording their Never Gone album. And so I'll never forget hearing Incomplete. And like I remember hearing on the radio Backstreet Boys' new song, and I'm like, "What is this?" I was ecstatic that Backstreet Boys got back together. I was super pumped. And but when I heard Incomplete, I'm like, "What is this?" It's like a rock song. I heard Nick's like husky voice. Like Nick, it's kind of funny because Nick in the beginning of their career, he kind of had like this high squeaky voice. This really like pop friendly squeaky voice. And his voice kind of matured. Actually, in the first album, there's a couple of songs where Nick's voice is like changing really bad. Um, there's the what's the song now? Let's have a party. Nick's voice is like changing in that song, like he's kind of squeaking, like puberty squeaks. And like songs like in Anywhere for You, like his voice is high, like his voice hadn't matured yet. That song was actually recorded in 1994, apparently, so late 94. So that's like one of the earliest songs that they recorded. That's why his voice sounds pretty high. Um, so anyway, I'm hearing Nick with this like husky um rock voice. I was intrigued, and AJ's voice sounded like heavier. Like I think between the last time I heard his voice and then when I heard Incomplete, it sounded like he had been smoking. To be quite honest, it sounded like his voice got a little bit hoarse, if you get what I mean. But Nick and AJ, they can really do these rock songs. Nick and AJ have these voices that they can put on to have this like rock edge. And I thought that was really cool. And so I was actually proud of being a Backstreet Boys fan at this point because this song was like a rock song. And this song was a hit too. I remember it playing all the time. Which by the way, our bus in this new school had a radio again. So we were listening to stuff on the radio all over again. So that was cool. So Incomplete played on the bus and stuff. And I thought that was really cool. And I remember telling kids at school, like, that's Backstreet Boys. And at this point, I stopped singing. My brother and I stopped singing Backstreet Boys. After that girl left, we didn't sing Backstreet Boys on the bus anymore. We just kind of felt awkward and we were insecure about it. So we just stopped singing. We stopped singing, period. And but I remember, like, some of the kids on the bus obviously knew that we would sing Backstreet Boys and stuff and that we liked Backstreet Boys. And I remember telling kids on the bus, like, after Incomplete was done playing, like, I have this one memory where I had an old MP3 player, like this really ghetto MP3 player. And I was listening to Incomplete, and this kid on the bus wanted to listen to the MP3 with me. And it was Incomplete, and he knew the song. I told him it was Backstreet Boys. And he's like, what? Really? And I was like, yep. I was like proud. I was proud that they were like doing this like heavier stuff. And I remember listening to some of their other songs on the radio. I remember their song "Hey Hey Hey" played on the radio. I thought that was a cool song too. And I remember seeing the music video on TV. At this time, my brother and I, we were watching a lot of like MTV. MTV, you know what, man? MTV. Maybe you like MTV, and I apologize if this offends you, but MTV has a lot of garbage. A lot of garbage, and I was watching this garbage. But I remember watching music videos on MTV. I think I was watching some on Much as well. I was watching a lot of music videos at the time, and I remember seeing Incomplete and like how they looked and stuff. Like once again, they look different. Kevin with his head shaved, and AJ, he always progressively looks different. Howie's hair, is different, and Nick kind of going with a shaggier look and stuff. And like, this music video was not a boy band music video. And I thought it was awesome. What's funny to me is I was such a big Backstreet Boys fan, but the thing is, I would never really ask my parents too much to buy me stuff, because my parents never wanted to buy me stuff. Like, I have a lot of action figures from when I was a kid, and I always bought it myself, because my parents were like, nope, you gotta buy it yourself, you gotta find a way to get money. And my grandma would give my brother and I money, and so we would use the money to buy toys and stuff, but it never occurred to us to ever like buy Backstreet Boys stuff. Like, we never asked our parents like, hey, can you buy us Backstreet Boys albums? We're too young to like go to concerts and stuff. Maybe not, but my parents I don't know who would be willing to take us to a Backstreet Boys concert. Maybe our cousins or something, but anyway, there was a 3-year hiatus anyway. So yeah, so I was really proud of Backstreet Boys at this point, because they were singing like this rock stuff. And let me think, what else happened afterwards? Things kind of happened in gaps at this point. I was still listening to the 2 albums, watching the tapes. I'm getting older, and I remember, this is a pretty big gap, because I remember we moved again. We moved in. I'm jumping time now. I moved in late 2007. So I moved schools again. So my last day at my old school was December 1st, 2008, and so we officially moved, but my dad like drove me to school, and it was like an hour away, maybe even longer. Yeah, that really warms my heart that my dad did that. He knew that was tough on me, but my dad had to move because he became the boss of the company, the insurance company, and we always lived quite far away. But my dad had more responsibilities. My dad ended up selling the business not long after that, which is kind of sad. And my dad kind of has some regrets about that. Actually, that might be personal. I probably shouldn't share that, but yeah, but that having the family company was a big part of my life. Like, I remember visiting the office and stuff, and it was run by my grandma, and like my older cousins ended up working there and stuff. And anyway, so this is December 1st, 2007. I moved away, and I remember learning that I remember learning in a magazine that Kevin actually left Backstreet Boys. This is how I learned. I kind of lost touch with Backstreet Boys after this. Like, I didn't pay attention to them that much afterwards, after the Never Gone album. I never paid much attention to them. And it never even occurred to me to try looking them up on the internet. I didn't really use the computer all that much back then. But I remember their album came out with Inconsolable on it. The album with Inconsolable on it. And I remember seeing the album in a Future Shop. RIP Future Shop. I remember looking in a Future Shop pamphlet. And I saw that there were only 4 members on the album cover. And I remember thinking, wait a second. There are only 4 now? That upset me a lot. I was like, what? Backstreet Boys my entire life was a 5-some. I liked every member. I only ever wanted them to be five. So when I found out that one of them left the group, I was like, what the heck? No. So I was upset about that. At this moment in time, I discovered YouTube. A friend told me about YouTube in the 7th grade. So I learned about YouTube in 2007. YouTube was pretty new at the time, so they had a lot less videos that you could search up. But I thought the idea that you could search anything was awesome. When I was younger, like in 2002, 2003, I learned about Google Images. And I'm like, I can Google image anything? So I would type anything. I would type anything. And like, I could Google image anything. And I felt powerful. Like, wow, look at this. Anyway, so I learned about YouTube. So this was like another like revelation to me. I could video search anything. And so I remember I remember looking up Backstreet Boys stuff, and I remember seeing the Inconsolable music video, and I remember thinking like, oh, like they're kind of continuing with sort of that like edgier sound, and I liked their songs, but the fact that that Kevin wasn't in the group anymore, like made me less interested. Because I just felt like it was this new like broken era of Backstreet Boys. Like they're just not the same. For some reason, Kevin leaving like put a weird taste in my mouth. But yeah, I remember watching some videos on Yahoo Music. For some reason, I would watch music videos on there because they had music videos in HD on Yahoo Music. So I remember watching some videos on there, and "Helpless When She Smiles" and "Inconsolable." Those were two songs that I really liked. This is the moment in time. This moment in time. Like I'm gonna say like 2008, 2009. 2007, 2008, 2009, this is this is when I started spending a lot of time on the internet. Before then, I always went outside or played GameCube, played Nintendo 64, but now or watched TV. But now I'm like now I'm in my teens. Now I'm spending a lot of time on the internet, and it was kind of a cool time for me because I started discovering all kinds of music. And I started looking up other boy bands and other vocal groups like NSYNC, Boyz II Men, some of the top names. I remember looking up Hanson's Bop. That was one of the first songs from mainstream music that I can remember because my dad would come home and he would sing Bop as a joke when I was like 3 years old, right? Like 1997. So my dad would come home singing Bop and I'd be like, "Daddy, what's that?" And I remember seeing the music video on TV when I was very, very young. So I was aware of what Bop was. So I started researching stuff. Lots and lots of... I started researching music. And I thought it was cool that I could look up songs that... I could look up songs from the radio that I could remember and I could listen to it. Because back in the day, I would listen to... For example, here's one song. I loved the song "Hole in the World" by the Eagles. But at the time, I wasn't using the internet. I wasn't really aware of the internet. The internet was probably so much more ghetto back then. Maybe you couldn't even find it. I probably was too dumb to find it anyway. And it'd probably take forever to download because of the frickin' Napster thing, like my dad was doing. But, when YouTube came out, I'm like, oh, let's see, "Hole in the World" Eagles. And I would always have to wait to hear it on the radio when it would come on the radio, right? So I would like look up songs that I knew, like Eagles' "Hole in the World," and then I would find like a lyric video or whatever, or a music video, and I would just listen to it and just listen to it over and over, and it was great. So yeah, so this is when I started looking up other groups, but it's not about other groups. This video is about Backstreet Boys. So my story's coming close to an end because it's becoming very close to modern day time, but this was around the time my brother and I started trying to pick out the harmonies to songs. I kind of asked myself, at this point, I'm in high school or middle school age, I guess high school, whatever. I started high school in 2009. I questioned, why do I like the music that I like? People often would share their favorite kind of music, and I remember a kid in my class asking me what kind of music I like to listen to, and I didn't know what to say because I listened to Backstreet Boys, and that was something I was very shy about, very insecure about. And I remember this guy that I'm talking about. He would listen to other people's songs. Like he would just listen to I mean, for example, somebody would bring an MP3 player, and he would listen to music with them. And he asked me to bring my MP3 player so we can listen to my music. It's like, here, you bring your MP3 player, and we'll listen. We'll listen together, or like I'll listen to your music. And I answered him when I said I had an MP3 player. I said, yeah, and he said, bring it. And I didn't want to bring it because my MP3 player had Backstreet Boys songs on it. The majority of the songs on there were Backstreet Boys songs. And some of the songs on there were actually from Brian Littrell's gospel album, which I guess that's a Backstreet Boys memory too. When his album came out, I visited a Christian bookstore, and I saw that there was a sign, like a cardboard cutout kind of thing, like a miniature cardboard cutout thing, that said like Brian from Backstreet Boys, blah 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 blah, like a Backstreet Boy making a song about his faith and stuff. And yeah, so I'm like, actually we bought it when we were in Vancouver. We were visiting Vancouver, and so yeah, we were visiting Vancouver. It was 2005 or 2006. It was 2006. Yeah, it was 2006. And yeah, 2006. That's right, because Incomplete and that album, Never Gone, came out in 2005, and then he made the gospel record afterwards. And so, yeah, my mom bought it. And I was like, oh, cool. And actually, I love that album, the Welcome Home album, whether you're religious or not. If you decide to listen to it and you're a Backstreet Boys fan, actually it doesn't even have a Backstreet Boys sound at all. It doesn't. I really feel like Brian really put his own flavor into it, and it's like gospel mixed with pop. It's actually a really cool sound. I actually really like that album. It's a very good album, in my opinion. I would recommend it. But yeah, so where was I? I basically asked myself, why do I like the music that I do? Especially when I started being interested in other boy bands. This boy band thing is expanding. I'm listening to NSYNC now. I'm listening to Boyz II Men. I know Boyz II Men isn't considered a boy band to many, but I was listening to all kinds of people. 98 Degrees. I was even listening to Dream Street. You guys know Dream Street? I was listening to a lot of Dream Street. I was listening to all kinds of boy band stuff. And I remember it hit me. I'm like, I like songs with harmonies in it. That's why I like Backstreet Boys, because of the harmonies. Like, I understood. Like, I'm listening to other songs, and when songs didn't have harmonies in it, I wasn't as interested. Like, I kind of learned that. Like, even, like, rock songs, like, I would chain listen to I Want It All, and I would chain listen to Toto's Africa. And I'm thinking about it, you know? It's because of the harmonies. That's why I like those songs. So, I mean, it's not why I like this. It's a big reason why I like those songs. So that's when it hit me. So fast forward into the future. We're getting really close to modern day times. My brother and I, we never sang in front of people. Like, it's been like for so long. Never sang in front of people. And my brother and I, we would talk about, like, I remember like people in the comments talking about like One Direction and stuff, and like Harmonies and stuff. Like, I remember some at certain points people talking about Harmonies in the comment section, and like I remember like comparing them to Backstreet Boys and stuff. And you know, my brother and I were already picking out harmonies and stuff and trying to learn. And like the headphone technique, we learned the headphone technique, and we're showing each other how the harmonies go. And yeah, I remember like saying, like, you know, like, yo, you're putting them up against Backstreet Boys, like, but like I couldn't show them, like, I couldn't show them how the harmonies go, right? That's when my brother and I started our YouTube channels. We were really not sure about it. we were really not sure. We're like, should we do this? Like, I don't know. But we just did it. Like, I don't know. We just like, they can't see our faces. They can't see who we are. We had no intentions of showing our faces at all. I know eventually we did, but we had no intentions of sharing our faces or sharing it with anybody. And it's still kind of the same way. We never. I'm not making this about Backstreet Boys anymore so far, up to this point, this little bit here, but we kind of opened up about singing afterwards. And now that we're in our adulthood, liking Backstreet Boys, like, we don't care anymore. We don't care. Like, now that we're adults, like, make fun of us if you want to. Like, you're the one who's going to be, you're the one who's pathetic if you're going to make fun of me because of that, you know? I'm not the one who's coming out as a dick. So, when I grew up, I stopped caring what, like, guilty pleasures. I don't have guilty pleasures. I listen to everything, you know? I listen to all kinds of stuff. So yeah, the album, like the two albums when Kevin wasn't there, I didn't pay much attention. I thought "Helpless When She Smiles" was a good song. I thought "Inconsolable" was a good song, but the "This Is Us" album, that's my least favorite album. It has to be. I don't care about any of the songs on that album, really. I don't really care too much. I think that album's the one that opened up with an acapella. I thought that was really cool. But what were the singles? Bigger and straight through my heart. See, those two songs, like, they're solid singles, but I just don't really care for that album. I just didn't like the sound. I didn't care about it. I didn't like it that much. So I kind of lost interest in that. But Kevin came back. I thought that was really cool. And because of the internet, like, I'm like firsthand finding out about this, right? So this is like 2012. They announced he's coming back. And then 2013, they released their album. And so my brother and I, we were really excited about that. And now we're 2013. I'm 18 or 19, something like that. So I'm a lot older now. I'm outside of high school now, basically, and so I'm starting to stop caring about what people think, and it's kind of to try to hide stuff like that. It like hide the fact that you like singing, that you like Harmonies, that you like Backstreet Boys, and like there's this weird like unfulfillment that you get. That's kind of why I wrote I wrote an acapella song called "You Can Try." You can hear this on the Bro Tunes channel that my brother and I run. So Bro Tunes, and the song "You Can Try." I kind of wrote that song a little bit about that, like trying to hide these things that you love and not sharing it with people. And that's kind of what the song's about. It's like trying to hide or trying to tuck away an emotion, but you don't feel fulfilled. Like you just want to let it out. You know what I mean? But you're scared. That's kind of what the song's about. This is gonna be like 2 hours long. I wonder if anybody's gonna listen to this. I wonder if anybody's gonna listen to this. This is gonna be funny. I'm gonna upload it anyway. Yeah. So, in a world like this, of course, this was around the time where our YouTube channels were up already, so you guys kind of know where we stand on this. We thought it was a okay album, but as their 20th anniversary, we were hoping for more, because they kept saying I don't know, we were kind of hoping for more of a Backstreet Boys kind of sound, and the harmonies weren't the best, but we thought it was really cool that they were doing everything themselves. They wrote a bunch of the songs, so it's a personal album. So we really enjoyed that. But we started getting back into Backstreet Boys again, whereas we kind of fell away from it. We were always a fan of Black and Blue and Millennium, which around this time, unfortunately, my parents were splitting up. It was a really rough period, and so my dad was taking some of his things, and so we're kind of going through the house. I had lost our Black and Blue and Millennium album for some time. But because of the internet, I could just look up the songs, so I didn't really care. I cared, but like I could look up the songs. So man, I remember finding those two CDs in its little paper slip, that because we didn't have the, like I said, we didn't have the album cases, so we had a little slip, and my brother and I, when we were kids, we drew the Backstreet Boys on it, on the little paper slip, and the drawing was garbage, and I drew them like how they looked on Millennium, and I'm pretty sure I gave Howie like bangs. Like I didn't get the concept that his hair slicked back. Like I gave him like a ponytail and kind of like hairs falling in wisps. I remember that, like falling in wisps like in his eyes. But Howie's hair slicked back. Anyway, it was in this basket and there was like a bunch of stuff on top of it. And I remember looking at it and there was a giant scratch in both of the CDs in the exact same spot, as if like something fell on it. There's this giant scratch. And I made this joke before. When I saw that scratch, the exact same design was created in my heart. Like my heart broke, and in the way that it cracked was in that same design as the scratch CD. Like that was my childhood, and the CDs were scratched, and I remember being mad. I'm like, you guys don't look after my stuff. Like you guys did not care. And I remember popping in the CD, and each CD, the last song didn't work. How ironic is that? That both CDs, it was the last song that didn't work. That's pretty ironic. Wouldn't that mean both CDs would have to have been placed in like a very specific way? Anyways, both CDs, the last song didn't work. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning, why I mentioned this earlier in this video, unless I like deleted that part, like edited it out. I did edit some things because I took a shower and came back. But, because my relative gave me the Japanese version, which had an extra song, it was the extra song that wasn't featured. No, what am I saying? Because my relative gave me the Japanese version, the extra song was the song that got messed up. So, and I immediately ripped all of the songs onto my computer, and the last song was like corrupted, same as Black and Blue. So, but what's funny is fast forward to like last year, or even not even a year ago, I bought Black and Blue and Millennium from Value Village. I don't know if there's Value Village outside of Canada, but it's a thrift store, secondhand store, whatever. So I bought those albums, and I'm like, okay, now I have the album with a pamphlet, with the case, and no scratch songs. But here's the thing. I totally didn't get as a kid that this was the special Japanese version. Even the song, like when I ripped it, it says special Japanese version of the CD or whatever. And so I bought the album, and it didn't matter because the extra song wasn't on it. I'm like, oh, okay. So it didn't matter. It's still cool to have the pamphlet and everything. I bought they sell CDs for like $2. I might go buy some more CDs later. I saw some boys last time I was there. There were some Boyz II Men albums there, and I'm like, okay. They had No Strings Attached there too. I didn't buy it because I didn't bring my wallet. I was just kind of gallivanting. Yeah. So a big moment for me is this was 2012. This was actually before my mom and dad split. This is 2012. And my dad and my cousins, who recently moved from the Philippines to Canada, so now we had more relatives. We went to the X. If you're Canadian, you know what the X is. So we went to the X, the Canadian exhibition in downtown Toronto, and on the radio, I learned that Nick Carter was going to be there, and he's going to be performing his songs off of the album that came out the year before. And so I'm like, wow. And we were going to go that day. And I remember, like, it was kind of, I was really excited. I'm like, wow, I'm actually going to see this guy. And the concerts at the X are free. I actually went to go see Walk Off the Earth, which is a group that I really like. Um, I went to go see Walk Off the Earth there. Like, I actually went to the X just to see them. And we went on a couple rides because we had a really small time frame to mess around. And that same friend who went to go see Backstreet Boys with us came with us to the X that time too, or came to the X with us. That was 2013. So we went to the X 2 years in a row to see a musical act. But this time we went to this time 2012 we went to like to do rides and do the other activities. But to see Nick Carter was a big one for me, and we went to go see the concert, which was in the evening time, and so Nick was gonna be performing all of his solo record stuff, and at the time he had 2 solo records, and like I was man, I sound pathetic. I was kind of emotional. I'm like, wow, like that's the Curtains guy. That's the Curtains guy. That's the middle part guy. And ironically, he actually had a middle part at the time, because he at this moment in time he kind of grew out his hair, and he had it split down the center, but it wasn't like the Curtains haircut that we all know and love. Yada yada. Um, but I remember like watching, and then my dad's like, "Okay, let's go." I'm like, "What?" Like he wanted to leave like early. He wanted to leave early so we can get to our car. We had to like take a bus to like get to like this parking lot. It's kind of a complicated thing, you know. It's the old thing when you're like you have to go somewhere that's in the city and you have to like park somewhere and then like walk the rest of the way, take a bus, blah blah blah. Take a trolley thing, whatever those are called. They got a lot of those in downtown Toronto. So we so we were leaving. So me and my cousins and my dad and my brother were leaving, and my brother and I were kind of upset, and I'm like, Dad, I don't understand. Why are we leaving? He's like, oh, we want to catch an early ride. I'm like, no, but Dad, like, you remember who I am, right? Like, Backstreet Boys means so much to me. Yeah, I sound pathetic, but it's true. I told my dad, I'm like, I don't understand why are we leaving? Like, you know how much Backstreet Boys means to me, and like throughout my entire life, Backstreet Boys has meant like this big deal to me, and we're just gonna leave? Like, I want to hear if he sings any of the Backstreet Boys songs. Like, he probably will. My dad's like, he probably won't. You know, now that he's here like by himself, he probably wants to do like his own thing and promoting his album or whatever. And I'm like, Dad, and I stopped him, and I reached into my pocket and I pulled out my 2 Backstreet Boy CDs, and I'm like, this was just in case I could get him to sign it. I knew it would be far fetched. I literally had the CDs in my pocket, like I wore cargo pants, and I had the CDs in my pocket, and I'm like, Dad, like I brought these just in case I somehow could get him to sign it, like this far fetched scenario where I would be able to see him somehow, and Nick Carter would sign this. And my dad's like, okay. So we went back, and sure enough, I think he sang Larger Than Life and I Want It That Way. So I'm like, see, Dad, I told you he was going to sing a Backstreet Boy song. I knew it. And we watched the whole concert, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. And his solo stuff is pretty cool, too. They're pretty good songs. My brother really likes the spacesuit song, the I think I'll put my spacesuit on and jump into my rocket. My brother likes that song. In 2014, my brother and I decided that seeing as we never actually saw them live ever, and we like the Backstreet Boys this much, we figured we would go see them live. So they actually had a concert in Hamilton, Ontario, which is in the GTA, but it's actually kind of the opposite way. So we had to drive like past Toronto to get there, like drive through Toronto to get there. So we drove pretty far away, actually. It's like maybe close to 2 hours away from where we live. Actually, Hamilton at that point isn't a part of the GTA anymore. That's like, I think that's like the border. Like after, what's before? The town before Hamilton is like the cutoff, I think. Something like that. Hamilton is like the next big city outside of the GTA, I think. So yeah. Anyway, so we drove to Hamilton to see Backstreet Boys in 2014. It was their In a World Like This tour, and we went with our good friend. We made a good friend who likes Backstreet Boys too. Um, he really likes alternative music though, but he does have a soft spot for Backstreet Boys too. Um, Backstreet Boys is kind of like a special exception for him. He likes a little bit of NSYNC too. He's just a fan of like 90s really, cause like he's kind of like us. Like he remembers a lot of the music. This might be personal, but whatever. I don't think they care. His mom had him quite young, so she was a person who was like who would be more aware of like or more into pop culture as say my parents. So there's a lot of music playing and stuff. So um anyway, I brought one of my best friends with us to Hamilton to see Backstreet Boys. It was quite the experience. Man, there was so many girls. The estrogen there were like off the charts, man. So there I remember there was me, my brother, and my friend were standing in a line full of girls to get in, and we stumble upon two other guys. And these two guys, they like walked up to us and they're like, "Huh, a bunch of guys who don't look like they've been dragged here by their boyfriends. How interesting." And we exchanged like our love for Backstreet Boys and stuff, and I told them like I think the Harmonies are really cool and stuff, and these two guys actually really love Backstreet Boys. Like they bought front row tickets. Like they were in the area where like they can walk out and you could like touch them. My brother and I were too cheap for that. We're like, no. We bought like the cheapest tickets you could buy. We were like, I think we were the third farthest away you could be. And it was really fun, but it was kind of annoying. I don't mean to be mean, but like the girls would yell and yell, and it was just annoying. Like my brother and I, we genuinely wanted to hear them sing, but all we could hear is ah, ah. And we're sitting at the far back, so like that didn't help either. I remember, for example, they kind of had a little break, and the lights were off. Like they turned off the lights, so it's kind of like, and the lights were off. And then the lights were off for a little while, and it was just kind of like quiet. There was some yelling here and there, like, "Yeah, I love you, AJ," stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so me, my brother, my friend were waiting patiently. What's the next song? And all of a sudden you hear, "Show me the meaning." Of course, it's harmonized, right? Like it's the first like half second of the song or second of the song is a cappella. The "Show me the meaning of being lonely" is a cappella, and I was really excited to hear that. So like all I heard was "Show me the meaning," and then of just like high pitched I can't even I'm not even gonna try to do a female high pitched scream. I can't. But it was like "Show me the," and then and I'm like, oh my god, shut up. Man, I don't wanna do that to them, Like yell if you want to, but I genuinely just wanted to hear them sing, and I could hear them sing, but like not as good as I wanted. But just like all the rest of the ladies there, I ended up just singing along with them, singing to their songs, and it was kind of a surreal moment. Like looking, even though we were far away, I'm like, wow, that's them. Like that's actually them. They're over there. Like if I could like, I mean, security would like take me away, but if I wanted to, I could like run up there and like touch them. The people in the front row did touch them because they would like clap people's hands and stuff and shake people's hands or whatever, right? But yeah, that was an interesting moment. Like, wow, they're actually over there. And I had my best friend or one of my best friends there, and like we were singing together, and he knows a handful of Backstreet Boys songs too. And like afterwards, we were after the concert, we were just kind of reminiscing, like, you know what, that was really cool. That was really cool, One moment that really pissed me off was that I don't think they should let drunk people in. I don't think they should let drinking in concerts. That might be some people might be upset with me about that. Like people just want to have a good time or whatever, but they wanted to dedicate a song or something, or a moment of silence, rather, a moment of silence for somebody that I think it was like a bodyguard or somebody that they had recently lost, and so they wanted a moment of silence, or it was for somebody, I don't know, it was for somebody, and there was like this drunk, like two drunk people like yelling while AJ asked for a moment of silence, and people you can see people were giving them like dirty looks, and like I remember this girl, like he asked for a moment of silence, and this girl's like, "I love you, AJ," like during the moment of silence, and she was literally the only one in the building, like making noise. And there was this drunk guy like hollering stuff too. Like they sang "Shape of My Heart," and after "Shape of My Heart" was finished, he starts yelling, "Sing Shape of My Heart, sing Shape of My Heart," and then you hear people going, "They just sang it. They already sang it," and he's like, sing it again," and he's like drunk and like yelling stuff, and we're like, oh. And plus they were not that far away from us, so we're like, ugh. So they kind of hindered the experience just a little bit because they were annoying. But yeah, man, that was really cool. So I went to go see them in concert. If I ever see them in concert again, we'll see. The concert experience is like whatever to me. I'd rather watch like a YouTube video or something. I mean, I experienced it once, so, you know. Between now and then, I've been trying to dissect Harmonies. I've been trying to pick out some of the Backstreet Boys songs, but I know my brother stole like a lot of them. But yeah, the Harmony stuff, like all of that was pretty much like Backstreet Boys were our true inspiration on trying to pick out harmonies and creating them ourselves. Backstreet Boys is our biggest influence between my brother and I. And come to find out that they seem like really great guys, especially searching them up on YouTube, like, you know, them going through struggles and them like having to grow up together, and like them going through situations they never thought they would go through, and they would go through it together, and like this special bond that they end up getting and stuff, and how their group seemingly almost like fell apart, but they like, you know, they stuck together, stuck to their guns, and they just seem like really cool people, you know. And all of their triumphs and everything, like they just seem like really cool guys, and like their personal stories and stuff. These were things I never really got to know until I started like looking them up on like YouTube and stuff, like learning about them. Like I didn't know about AJ's struggles with drugs and alcohol, and him feeling like burnt out and tired, and him falling into like the rock star lifestyle, and you know the various health issues and deaths in the family, and Lou Pearlman screwing everybody over. But fast forward now, here I am, 24 years old. I still like Backstreet Boys. I love Backstreet Boys. I still listen to them regularly, and I'm making YouTube videos about them now, and I'm excited to hear their new album. The last 4 songs that they put out, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, Chances, No Place, and now their acapella song that I just heard not too long ago, Breathe. I'm really happy with these songs. These songs are really good. I know we ridiculed the harmonies a little bit. I know my brother ridiculed Baby Don't Go a little bit. I ridiculed what's it called now? Chances, because the harmonies are very quiet. I still stand with that. They made the harmonies so quiet in that song, and it would have made it sound so much more epic, especially after coming to find out that the harmonies are actually not half bad. But yeah, this video is like 2 hours long. That's all of the Backstreet Boys memories I can think of. I'll beat myself up more if there's more that I can think of, but those are like most of my Backstreet Boys memories I can think of. Yeah. There's no question about them being the biggest influence for my brother and I. To some degree, they are our heroes, as pathetic as that might sound. But yeah, we just love Backstreet Boys. They have a very special place in our heart, and we love the fact that they're still going and still making music, and they're not quitting. I think that's awesome. what's even cooler than that is I love the fact that like they've come to a point where their career is kind of more chill in the sense that they kind of create more, their atmosphere is a little more relaxed. They're a little less pressured, whereas like in the Millennium days and in the Black and Blue days, like they had to go and go and go, and now they have families now, and their schedules are a little more flexible, and they're having a little more fun with it now, soaking it in, and I like that. I like that they come to that point of their career and like that. It's cool to me that you can do that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'm really hopeful for this new album. I wish them all of the success, continued success. I hope they keep going until they can't. I hope they keep going until they can't. But yeah, these are the tales of my history with Backstreet Boys. This would be the same as my brother, so there's no way he's gonna make a 2 hour video just like this explaining the exact same thing, because our lives would match almost exactly because we're twins and we experienced everything the same way. So this is these are my memories with my favorite group, and they're probably forever going to be my favorite group. They're still making songs that I like, so it's not slowing down. Anyways, I really appreciated it I really appreciate to those who watched this whole video, because I realize this video is like over 2 hours long. But I don't know, it's I don't know, just getting kind of personal here. It's kind of fun. I don't get personal too much. I try not to be too personal, but this is my personal history with the band, and it's ongoing. So anyway, thanks for watching. It means a lot. It really does. And tune in next time for whatever video I come out with.